Welcome to the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies, where there's always another secret.
Welcome, Sixers, to episode 128 of the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies. Today is January 30th, 2023. I'm Bill, and I'm joined, as always, by my maritime co-hosts, Amy and Jordan. Welcome.
Hello.
Yes, I'm definitely very maritime here in the basement.
Yar.
Yar.
Yarr.
Remember, while tonight's live stream is... I need to update this. I'm messing up on this again. Oh, gosh. Just remember, the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies is not a spoiler-free podcast, and tonight we are again diving into the newest published work from the Cosmere, Tress of the Emerald Sea. If you listen to the podcast recordings or watch the videos on YouTube after the fact, we do want to remind you that you can actually join us live for our live cast at www.twitch.tv/innkeeperstable. We record every other Monday night. On starting at 7:30 p.m. Pacific time, 10:30 p.m. Eastern. Please join us, take an active part in the discussion, and just be here and possibly help steer the discussion even a little bit.
Yeah.
Remember, the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies is made possible by the support of our listeners and patrons. The show will, of course, continue to be free, but if you want to help us out, head over to patreon.com/Cosmere Studies. You know, $1 or $2 per episode is really all that we're asking. Patrons do get immediate access to our Discord channel where you can talk about the show and the Cosmere with other listeners. We've got a great community. We've got awesome discussions over there. You'll also get early access to bonus episodes, exclusive access to other bonus content, and of course, just other good stuff that I don't even know may be in the works, just because we come up with ideas from time to time. This week, we want to thank our newest patron, James, not James. Is that how it's pronounced? I'm not sure.
I'm fairly certain.
I think.
James_not_James. I have a feeling multiple people have made this mistake in the past.
Just the I would be the only thing would make a difference. I could see how that'd be easily passed over. Not that that wouldn't bother somebody, but I could see that.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you, new patron.
Yep. I just realized that I don't have a Cosmere thing of the week this week. I'm so sorry.
Did we not?
I don't think we have one.
Okay, so we can have it a little bit late. I am this close to being done with my Tress cosplay. So I will post. Yeah. I just need to attach.
That's pretty quick.
So for that, pay attention to our social media, our Twitter, our Instagram,
and our TikTok, and I'll put up stuff about my Tress. It may not be 1,000. It may not be 100% done, but it'll be pretty close because I just have to finish the belt and the headband. I think that's
when did you start this?
Week or two ago, but I bought most of it. So
okay.
So it was pretty quick. It's just
impressive.
simple costume. So
this week's Cosmere Thing of the Week is brought to you by Amy and our social media channels. Pay attention to those after the show.
Come find it
later,
yes.
not immediately after the show, but go check it out
next day, Tuesday or
The
Wednesday.
point is, check out our
That's
TikTok.
where you'll find it.
Yes.
Okay, so moving into Sanderson news. First off, something has happened, and while I completely understand and support Brandon's decision to do this, it's a little bit unfortunate for us because the weekly updates are going to be moving to Tuesday instead of Monday, which means we are going to be a week behind instead of on the job day of the release.
It's basically as bad as it could go for us.
But Brandon's reasoning makes perfect sense because apparently his team was working through the weekend to make sure that it happened on Monday, and I'm just like,
that's
totally
fair.
get it. I'm on board for this. So we'll be a little bit less timely. That's not going to happen for another week or two, though. So
yeah.
Brandon is 85% of the way through his revisions for Defiant and is planning to finish that by February 1st, aka Wednesday of this week. If you're listening to the show after the fact, the day that this episode comes out. Secret Project 1, the first shipment has shipped out. That is 14,000 copies, which is apparently only 14% because there were 100,000 copies to put together and send.
It's a lot.
Clearly, Kara and her team have their work cut out for them.
They're busy. Yes.
I can't imagine even beginning to handle the logistical problems of this.
Yeah. I mean, aren't they on their third warehouse now?
Maybe.
I mean, we don't count Brandon's back garage, right?
No, I'm not counting the garage, but I am counting the basement of the Cosmere house.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think this would probably be the third one because they got a new bigger one. So yeah.
Yeah, because they got a new bigger one because of the success of the Kickstarter. So.
Well, and you got to think that when they first set up Cosmere House, they're like, "Oh man, this is way bigger than anything we've ever done before. We won't need anything for a while." And then they had to get a warehouse. Well, okay, we have an actual warehouse now. This will be as big as, and then the Kickstarter happens.
Yeah, if Brandon keeps and the thing is, the first one was because of the Kickstarter. It was their first Kickstarter for the leather-bound Way of Kings. And so if Brandon keeps doing Kickstarters at this pace,
at this rate of growth, eventually Brandon will need his own county to store his books in.
I was thinking Brandon's going to need like a retired airport hangar or something. Okay, this is one of my favorite
Sanderson hangar of the Salt Lake City Airport.
This is one of my favorite things that happened. This is something I actually wanted to happen, and it did. So Brandon and one of my favorite YouTubers, Mark Rober, did a collaboration. If you're not familiar with Mark Rober, he's a former NASA engineer. He worked on the Mars rover, not the Mars rover. The was it Curiosity?
I think it was Curiosity.
Yeah. So he had stuff on that. Major engineer who then started doing fun projects, became popular on YouTube, and now he's done things like the biggest elephant toothpaste explosion in the world. All these, he filled a pool with Jello. He did all this stuff.
He's done like squirrel mazes at Olympics during COVID. Those were really fun to watch.
If you heard about the Squirrel Ninja Warrior, that was him. He's done a bunch of stuff. Anyway, several years ago, he did a video on fluidization, which, if you've read Tress of the Emerald Sea, that's the science behind this ocean of spores that, and that the vents that blow through and make everything work. So the fact that Brandon and Mark Rober, two content creators also, who have both built their own secret lairs, collaborating, this made me so happy. But like, as I was reading Tress, this is actually, his video is what kept coming to mind. It's definitely worth checking out. So if you want to go to Brandon's YouTube channel and check it out, it's over there. It's really fun.
Yeah. My favorite part is where Brandon invites him into his own house.
Yes.
Right.
So I can't find the exact quote, but his social media person, Octavia, she apparently knew Mark Rober before, and so she's part of why it happened. But it sounded like they had a fun time, hanging out together and stuff.
Also, the thing is, at this point, Brandon's of the level where he can talk to most people and say, "Hey, could I come in?" Oh yeah, you're not trying to capitalize on my fame. You've got your own.
You're good. You're good. We can just mutually help. It's fine.
Well, and it was a natural fit because he had done exactly that video.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Modulus in chat reminds the glitter bomb videos.
Glitter bombs
for Porch Pirates. That's also Mark Rober. So
he's done like several renditions.
Did one with Macaulay Culkin.
Yes, he did.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
he almost killed him accidentally with the stink spray.
Was so bad. Yeah.
Okay, so the like we said, they're shipping out the deluxe copies of Tress of the Emerald Sea. Some of them have been available for pre-order. I'm not sure if those are still available or not. I haven't heard that they're not, but things are going fast on Brandon's site right now. But they said if there is interest, they will very possibly do a reprint of the deluxe edition. The more affordable editions will be coming in 3 months from Tor and his other publishers. The other sad news is that the backer kit for the Stormlight Miniatures Kickstarter, speaking of Kickstarters, is now closed. So that is, your opportunity for that is over. And I think they're hoping to fulfill later this year, which is awesome, because having kickstarted a bunch of board games, production of miniatures of that scale often meets delays. So the fact that they're actually on track is impressive.
Yeah, it's, I don't know. Again, I don't know how they're doing all this logistics. It is a massive machine that somehow seems to only be picking up steam.
Okay. All right. So, our last episode, we talked about Tress of the Emerald Sea. There's still more to talk about. So, we decided we're going to do a little bit more. Last time we talked a lot about the plot. This time there's a lot more mechanics to get into, because there is a whole lot of stuff going on this world of Lumar, I think is what it's called.
Yes.
Yeah.
Lumar. That's right.
Lumar, under the Lunagrades.
So should we just start with the Spore Seas? Since, the Emerald Sea itself?
Well, considering Brandon Deceit wanted us to do that with his video with Mark Rober, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, they seem so cool, but also like terrifying at the same time.
I think they're just straight up terrifying. I'm not they're when she walks out onto the sea, I'm just sitting here thinking, you've got to keep your eyes closed. There are so many holes in the human body that leak stuff, that have liquidy parts. Like if one of those spores lands on your eye, you are in for a bad time.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing that was cool about her. What's interesting is that she's power walking over it. You don't want to go too fast, because one, that could cause you to sweat.
And you don't want to kick them up.
Yeah, you don't want to kick them up. And it's interesting that this is common knowledge, because it's something that not anyone is going to do, but it's somehow common knowledge, where there's just enough people who have done this that that knowledge permeates.
Well, I mean, you think if they're living on islands, because there's seas all over, there's going to be some kid that's going to wander out onto the sea when it's gone solid, and the parents are going to have figured out some way of, how do you get this kid back safely, or how does this other person, or there's going to be scenarios even if you're not going way far out to sea.
It's like the kid who stuck out on thin ice, and you're just like, okay, you got to walk him back, you got to bring him back.
So I can just see, you know that you teach your kids, when it goes solid, you power walk, you never run.
No, when it goes solid, you don't go on it. When it's it's liquid, you don't go on it.
Period. But teenagers still exist on this world, so.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it could happen.
I mean, the stories my dad has told me of growing up in a small farm town where, pre-internet days, there's nothing to do. He's like, I can't believe I'm alive, because just the stupid stuff he and his friends would dare each other to do. And so, there's been all sorts of, but I can go further out on the sea when it goes.
You touched the butt.
Yep, exactly.
The Finding
Nemo, yes.
Except it's on the other, it's above the
yeah.
edge.
Well, and that's the interesting thing is, water is still the concern, but there's none of it there.
A different.
Now the thing you were mentioning, you sweat. If you sweat, it's salty.
But it's also liquid.
But it's salty.
But is it enough salt to not have it sprout?
Like, how much salt will actually kill the spores?
I don't know. That detail is not gone into. Because it sounds like she is worried about sweat, especially when she's working with the spores later.
Right.
So
right, but I'm just thinking, but sweat is salty.
I don't know.
Not salty enough, apparently.
Yeah.
I mean, like if it's to the point where they drink salty tea to keep it safe, then sweat is salty.
I don't know. The thought of drinking salty tea just. Oh, no, thank you.
You don't want vinegar tea?
Nah, I'm
Vinegar
good.
tea.
Just imagining like that's kind of what I would imagine it like not taste like, but the sensation of it, or just how strong it would taste.
Yeah. The only kind of tea it's just.
No, but it's interesting as well. Just the one that they all have to deal with different problems, and one of the ones that I had been wondering throughout the book and was the weather, because it's like they got to get water from somewhere. It's got to rain, and the fact that on most of the seas, the weather is 100% known. And I thought that was like, oh, that's kind of weird. And then I thought, well, wait, part of the thing that really affects our weather are things like tides, but their moons are in.
You have 12 tidally locked moons.
Yeah. And so it would be very regular weather patterns.
Yeah.
Which makes what's going on in the Crimson Sea, right?
Yeah.
Where it's random.
Crimson.
You're just like, why? But why though?
Because it needs to be scary. I don't know. I don't know why that one would be more volatile than the other places.
Well, no, it's just the fact that
unless the sorceress is just doing something.
We don't know, yeah.
Except it sounds like this predates the sorceress, at least.
I mean, it's not really clear how long the sorceress has been there.
Because it sounds like she's been there a while, but we don't know how long a while is.
We know the dragon has been there longer.
Right. Well, and maybe he's doing something.
Yeah, and that's the thing is we don't know.
Right.
Why, and that's why I want to know why. Why is it random in the Crimson Sea and not everywhere else?
Except that it sounds like it isn't entirely random because they said it seems aggressive.
But Hoyd also says, because when Hoyd's talking about it, he talks about how everyone knows the weather is random. It's like, but when it's happening to you, it never feels that way. It feels personal.
Right. But Hoyd is also like, when Hoyd tells you everyone knows this, that's when I trust it the least.
This is one I think he's waxing poetic about the nature of random chance and how we anthropomorphize everything. As someone who plays XCOM a lot, let me tell you, random chance never feels random. It always feels personal, and the computer's always cheating. But that's the nature of humanity, is we anthropomorphize things. We digest things in the terms of stories.
Yeah.
And we make faces out of all sorts of things because we want to see a face there.
Yeah.
But again, when everything is predictable except for one place, suddenly it's just like, okay, maybe it isn't random.
Well, you want to know what it is for sure.
My guess is, now that you guys had mentioned it, is probably that the dragon's done something.
I think Zysis, whatever his name.
However you say it.
Zysis is how they said it in the audiobook.
Zysis? Okay.
Yeah.
Now, who knows if that's correct, but that's how they said it.
Well, I mean, if it's in the audiobook, they're usually prompted on how to say things.
Well, I've also listened to Kate Redding and Michael Kramer say the same name completely different ways, so
I don't know.
Yeah.
I consume my stories usually with my eyes.
Well, of course, you're not male.
Right. I'm it's permitted.
Yeah. But my safe hand, I'm not good with that, unfortunately.
No, it's
scandalous.
Frankly, because you're a trollop. No.
Yeah. Walking around, safe hand, uncovered.
Safe hand free. Oh, so scandalous. Anyway.
That sweet, sexy safe hand.
Yes. So that was a really fun thing. And just all of the weirdness with Hoyd's deal. And the fact that he didn't lose like his sense of taste or smell or sight or hearing or anything like that. But it was like his sense of fashion and his sense of like
propriety, I think it was.
Propriety and I can't remember what the other ones were, but it was just like he was so ridiculous and hilarious and his sense of humor, I think, was one of the other ones too, probably, because like he thought things were funny that really were just weird.
Yeah, sense of humor was one of them.
Yeah. And he had
Sorry,
a
I'm looking
mullet.
something up.
I'd
Yes.
forgotten he'd had a mullet too. Though it seems they're coming back in fashion, at least near me. There's a lot of kids who have mullets and things, and I'm like, oh.
I can guarantee you they are.
Okay.
One of my nephews has one, and he loves it.
I just, if you have one, good for you. But yeah.
It just makes me laugh. No, but the so go to Hoyd's deal thing. That there's one of the things that's really weird about what's going on here, and we're so far in the future that we don't know how. How are we getting Elantrian magic to work off world?
Yeah.
Well, see, and I have a feeling this is one of the reasons that Brandon wanted to put the Lost Metal out before Tress of the Emerald Sea, because that's when we see, oh, okay, they have pots of connection juice,
Yeah.
you know, or of raw investiture.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we don't see her consuming anything like that. And so what I think it might be is because we also don't see her using any of her magic outside of her tower. And
so you wonder if that's, go ahead.
Well, so because we saw in Mistborn's Secret History when Kelsier was invading the Eyrie, when he sinks his hands into their building, he gets a flash and he sees Elantris.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
and so they're doing something to connect that area to Elantris. Now, we don't see the Eyrie doing any crazy magic stuff, but it clearly causes some form of connection. And we know connection is really important to be able to do Elantrian magic. So my gut tells me she's doing something with her tower that is also a spaceship, and that is really cool, but I need an explanation. To somehow let her use her magic inside her tower, and it persists, like the effects of it persist.
Well, and if I remember right, there was something similar at the Ghostbloods base, wasn't there?
I don't remember.
Like there was like a field or something that permitted it.
I don't remember.
I vaguely feel like something. I don't remember if that was a word of Brandon or if that was in one of the epilogues or what, but I think there was like some sort of field set up so that these kind of things could be done in this area. So it's probably something very similar being done within the tower.
But yeah, she's doing something interesting, and because the effect lasts beyond the tower itself, like the magic doesn't stop. It tells me that whatever she's doing, she's fundamentally rewriting you. You know, something about you is getting overwritten so that once you step away, it still has an effect, almost like a forgery of some kind, but using Elantrian magic.
Yeah. Which, I mean, for all we know, she does have some forgery too, even if we didn't see it.
Right.
Well,
because she's got Awakening in as well.
Elantrian magic is by far the softest of all of Brandon's magic systems in the Cosmere.
Well, and not only that, Cellish magic, there are multiple forms of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No pun intended on forms, but
but it's one of those things where I have a feeling Elantrian magic is going to be the Swiss Army knife of magic, that it can do almost anything. And the only limiting factor is who can be Elantrian, because that's literally Hoyd's entire goal here.
Yeah.
And that actually kind of makes sense because, I mean, other than whatever's going on Trinity, that's the only magic we've seen where the shard doesn't have a vessel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of some sort.
Yeah. So one of the things that would be a limiting factor is missing.
I mean, like, yes, we do have Stormlight, but that's still a little bit different as well. Like, yeah. Because the cognitive shadow of what's his name? No, what's his name? Tanavest is the Stormfather. You know, because the Stormfather is somewhat, but like the door itself is just I don't know. It's just weird. Cell is weird. Especially because it's also two shards,
and we don't know as much about some parts of it just because it was the first book, and in the characters didn't know. Or
Well,
they
and
didn't find
Brandon
out.
didn't know.
Yeah.
Like Brandon didn't have perpendicularities figured out when he wrote Elantris. He just had this idea of, okay, magical pools seems cool. I'll plant this seed right now. But he didn't know when he was writing that book that what was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Shard pools didn't really become a thing until late in the writing of Mistborn, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not until book 2.
Mm-hmm. But no, but I mean, like in his mind, even.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about when they showed up. I'm talking about like in the
as he was writing the
it.
trilogy, he solidified it towards the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you're just looking at the Elantrian magic that she's doing. What? Also, she's just such a jerk. Like, why did she go to some backwater planet just to sit there and just be a jerk to people?
Oh, she's probably studying the aethers and all the spores.
Why be a jerk to people?
But I mean,
because she's probably a jerk.
Well, my other
some
thought
people
is that
are
she's
just
hiding
jerks.
out from other people too, because it's possible that she's made enough another Elantrians angry that she's like, I'm not allowed to be near the rest of them, so I have to go get booted over there.
I'm going to go to a place that nobody wants to come,
and nobody should be able to mess with me because I'm an Awakener and an Elantrian and all these other things. So.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. She's sort of trying to pull the same stuff that Hoyt's been doing.
Well, and in particular, we got to remember she's a member of the Irie, or at least was. She's one of the named ones in Secret History.
That's true.
And as Modulus points out in, or as Texas Blade points out, the Irie's goal was to make one of them a shard because they were planning on taking up preservation.
Right.
And so I'm willing to bet a lot of them do have a god complex. I mean, they're literally worshipped back on their home back in their day. Very similar now as I think about it to the Returned on Nalthus.
Yeah.
Kind of a similar process. You are just sort of chosen.
Yeah.
But at least with the Returned, they don't remember who they were.
No.
They don't remember who they were, and they're also actively chosen.
Yeah, it's not random.
Like they're chosen by, and I'm blanking on her name, Edgley.
Yeah, endowment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and the thing that's interesting is we now know that invitations can be given because
from within. Yeah.
Yeah, but how's that going on? What's going on there?
Who? What? Yeah. So many questions.
Yeah, but no, I think her motivation though is just like you said, she's kind of just a jerk, and
I think she's got more motivation than that, but they're not mutually exclusive.
It's at very least her motivation, like her whole thing, like, oh, I'm gonna put this, I'm gonna make the stuff that I'm putting on you awful, like, and she fully,
oh, she's spiteful.
Yeah, and it's just like all she wanted was her boyfriend back. Like that's all she wanted, and she's willing to. It's just like it just doesn't seem proportional to the offense.
And I mean, Charlie didn't really. What did he do to make her upset? I don't think he did anything. He was kind of the victim.
He showed up.
He trespassed.
Well, he got. No, he was.
No, that's what Tress did.
No, he was trespassed, but he
Jordan.
I'll see myself out.
Oh goodness.
And no, don't come back.
But Charlie was. Oh goodness.
He was traded.
Like bartered. He was traded to her, so he really was just a pawn.
Yeah. So
the thing.
What did she want with him?
To make somebody miserable. That's all I can
think of. Was he traded for anything, or was he just sent to to basically parley with her?
Yeah, negotiate.
Is that what it was?
I think that's what it was. So I think he just
was.
trespassed. Yeah.
Okay.
I think he was just sent to deal with her.
And good luck to poor
and
Charlie.
she said, "I'll show you dealing."
Well, I mean, it's very similar to Avatar: The Last Airbender. Yeah, you get your honor back when you find the Avatar.
It was an intentional. It was a death sentence.
Yeah.
He was inconvenient. Get rid of them. There's a lot of people who don't come across really well in this book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what? I think it's all the salted tea. It makes everyone cross.
It makes them salty.
Yep.
Oh boy. All of the
Well, and the other thing about this book, there is so much that we could be completely misunderstanding because we have literally the most unreliable narrator possible. Not just Hoyd, but Hoyd, who wasn't even all there during everything going on. And he likes to mess with us, and he doesn't want to tell us everything.
And he's having to rely on the word of people who don't understand what they're looking for.
Yeah, because we're getting it from Tress, or from Hoyd, who's under a curse, from Tress, as well as Hoyd's observations. I mean, and it's so that's like a couple different.
Yeah. Now Hoyd is recovered by the time he's telling us this, and we also he's telling it to a very specific audience. He goes into at one point. He says all the ships arriving, which of course leads to speculation that this is on First of the Sun.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. He is speaking not to us, but to those people. And so by doing that, he's using a very specific language and that they will understand.
Things, Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's, unreliable narrator. And then on top of him being unreliable for multiple reasons, you also just have the problem of, even if he was being 100% knowledge, like honest with us, he doesn't understand everything that's going on either.
Right.
Yeah.
Because there are certain things that he talks about and he's like, because like it's clear he doesn't know 100% why the dragon's there.
Well, and, Brandon has said, he was asked the question, who is the most Cosmere aware person? Of course, everybody's thinking Hoyd, and he says Chris is probably more Cosmere aware than Hoyd because she's paying attention to how it all works. Like they've got different things that are important to them.
Mm-hmm. And she's more of
she's a scholar.
Yeah. Whereas we don't know what Hoyd's goal is, so we don't know. Hoyd's
he's just I think Kelsier's name for him is best, the Drifter. Like it fits. It's like he's not a vagrant. He's not someone who's just sort of stumbling through, but he's drifting through. He's following the wind's fortune.
Well, I mean, even like you say the winds of fortune, he literally sometimes will show up in a place, not know why he's there. Yeah. It's very very quantum leap in that way, where he just shows up and he's like, I know I'm supposed to be here. I don't know why.
So I'm just gonna try and figure it out as I bumble my way through.
Well, it's like we even see with like Sazed, who's now got 2 shards. Even he trying to look into the future didn't know 100% why he was doing things, because he always thought it was about Wax, and it turns out he's like, oh, this was about Wayne. Wayne's the one who has to save everything, and even he was surprised by this. And so if someone who literally has, 2 shards can be surprised where fortune leads,
then good luck to Hoyd and everybody else.
Of all the mortals, probably got the best experience with it, but still best of luck.
Yeah.
No.
Having the most experience doesn't necessarily mean you have experience. It's how the person who figures out how to unclog the paper jam in the printer ends up as your de facto IT guy at a small company.
Yeah. Do they have the knack? Who knows?
The knack.
Yeah.
Okay, so
video about that. Anyway,
let's talk some more about these different kinds of spores, because we don't get all. There are 12 of them, possibly 13.
We don't see all of them.
But we don't see all of them. I've got the copper mine pulled up.
Okay,
and
good.
The ones we have listed are Crimson, Zephyr, Verdant, Sunlight, Midnight, and Rosite. And then
so going Crimson are the spiky ones.
Crimson are the spikes. Ones. Zephyr are the wind, the
which
blast.
Those are the ones they use for explosions.
Yes, that's their gunpowder essentially. Verdant are the vines.
Yeah.
Sunlight are the ones that they use for the oven.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So we don't see them, but we see them in action.
They talk about them, but we don't really see them. The midnight spores are the ones that create the monsters.
Yeah.
And then the rosite spores are the ones that they use to seal.
Make
That's
a
also
wall. Yeah.
that's also what is it? Twin soul or two soul?
Twin soul.
Twin soul. That's what he used in the Lost Metal.
Lost Metal. Yeah.
When he went all thing on them.
And I suspect I forget. Neither of y'all have read Aether of Night, have you?
No.
Specifically,
you've given it to me. I just need to read it still.
And it is non-canon, so
yeah,
obviously, but it still is something that Brandon worked with, and so I think, I'm not sure, it seems to behave similar to the way that the Amber Ethers did in Aether of Night. But I believe that Amberite or something is going to be one in one of the other ethers. I'm not sure of that. He may have just changed it to Rosite. I can't speak on that though.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about how freaked out were you when you found out that Midnight Essence is here? Like the Midnight Mother? Like
in Roshar, yeah.
You're like, wait a minute.
Like I didn't connect the dots for a second. Like it didn't click for me, and it should have, but I was too focused on Lumar and didn't think about that.
But it just suddenly is like, wait, what's going on here? How is... Because clearly the Midnight Mother is using Midnight Essence, which means somehow she's tied to Black Aether somehow.
And we know that Lumar is not the first place, is not the home planet of the Aethers.
It is not the Aether planet.
So it's possible that there's also some other source that the Midnight Mother is using.
So I saw somewhere, and now I'm forgetting where. I can't remember if it was our Discord or Reddit, but someone was positing an idea that the Unmade are unmade like shards from other shards or something like that. Okay. And it's something basically that he unmade a piece of them and brought it to Roshar. Okay. And if that's the case, he'd be doing something with it. Like the Midnight Mother would be some corrupted version of Aether essence. I don't know. I can't remember the specifics because like they had, we think that he's like, doing things, but there's something going on because she's clearly using Midnight Essence.
Yeah, I don't know. That may have been on Reddit. I can't remember if that was in our Discord or not.
Well, so maybe I'm skipping a portion. Just the fact that we got another bond mentioned as well. The Luhul
bond as opposed to the Nail bond.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about that is a lot of people were speculating that Nail was a person who discovered this bond, but Luhul, etymologically, they're too similar for it to just be named after a person, I think.
Yeah, and so the fact that I had to pull it up because I couldn't remember the specifics, but I'm just going to read straight from the Coppermind. Aethers bond with individuals that are capable of giving them water, although exactly how they choose a person differs between different Aethers. The Lumaran Midnight Aether bonds with anyone in proximity to their spores and agrees to give them water, actively searching for beings to bond to. With other Lumaran Aethers, they simply choose an individual, forcibly to be a spore eater, which separates them from the Naho bond, which requires volition. The Prime Aethers choose their Aether bound. How the primal Aethers choose their Aether bound is unknown. Once the bond is formed, they are capable of granting water to the Aether through an unknown process, and in the case of the Lumaran Midnight Aethers and the Primal Aethers, this gives them a measure of control over them. And then it talks about we don't know if there's any progression possible with the bond.
The thing that's interesting about that is it sounds like Sand Mastery.
Yeah.
Like that's how Sand Mastery works, is they basically form a bond, give water, and are able to control the sand. And if you apparently the sand itself is it's not the sand, it's a microorganism that lives on the sand that absorbs
wakes
this
up with the water.
That absorbs the investiture from Taldain's sun. And basically and it sounds so much like what Twin Soul was doing.
Yeah, and I just remember, because I remember when I was reading Lost Metal, I was sitting there thinking the same thing about Twin Soul, where I'm like, man, this sounds a lot like Sand Mastery. But because I didn't know anything about Aethers, it's like, oh, this looks like a lot like Sand Mastery. But we at least know through Twin Soul and that Aethers existed before the Shattering.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and we've seen already with things like Preservation using the magic his magic system to mimic something that came before as a way to remind stuff. It suddenly starts looking like Sand Mastery might be patterned after the Aethers.
Yeah. Or it may involve ethers.
Yeah.
You know, the microorganisms that are on this sand may be related to ethers.
Yeah.
We don't know.
No,
that's the thing that's really interesting, is that autonomy, like, who knows whether, like, because autonomy is sort of is the shard that Sand Mastery is supposedly connected to. But I don't know. There's something funky going on with it, because it does use investiture, because it has to be charged by the sun, but it really does behave like a Lewis bond.
Yeah.
So,
well, and then on top of it, you have the, talking about things going through different magic systems. We have the fact that the spores, the rosite, for example, reacts to steel and iron. And it does a push versus a pull.
Yeah.
And then Hoyt attacks me for paying attention to such things, and he's a big meanie. But
honestly, yeah,
there's certain through lines in all the magic systems that certain things seem to affect. Because we see iron and steel affecting things in Fabrials, and it makes you want and then for me, it just makes me go back to. And we see silver having consistent effects across various magic systems. And I just keep going back to the fact that silver doesn't seem to do anything in allomancy. And I'm like, why doesn't it do anything in allomancy?
Except for an electrum.
Yeah, but that's because of it the other way. But it's just sort of like, why? Why does it do anything in allomancy? Does it actually do something in allomancy? And we don't know because we don't deal with cognitive shadows enough. I don't know. It's just one of these things where it's just like there's certain through lines that are very interesting.
Or maybe it's because Scadrial was created from whole cloth. It was just made rather than populated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's just interesting because we know Preservation set up his magic system to echo what is going on elsewhere. And it could very well be he didn't bother with silver because he said when he had his full mind, they'll never see the effects of silver because they're not going to be dealing with cognitive shadows. And so he didn't bother with it.
Or he didn't want it to be a problem for him or something.
Yeah. We obviously, the problem is the person who could tell us is dead and wasn't sane when we met him. So
poor Fuzz. Yeah.
Good old Fuzz.
Liras. Okay, but let's talk about these different kinds of spores. So the verdant spores actually remind me kind of soul casting, how they soul cast grain and stuff like that. And I don't know, it has that same sort of feeling because it's something that I guess it's not quite the same. It is edible. And that's one thing that they were talking about, how you can actually survive on this. I'm like, that's honestly amazing.
Yeah. Apparently sucks, but
it's better than starving.
I guess that gets us back to soulcast grain, though.
Yeah, soulcast lavas grain also is not pleasant.
Very bland. Yeah.
But of course,
the fact
when you're dealing with what's his name, the quartermaster, his cooking doesn't matter what you've got for it.
Yeah, it's always bad. But he tried his little heart out. So,
well, the verdant spores also, like, because those are the ones she realizes she can influence them.
Well, I mean, she basically realized they work the same way or similarly to the midnight spores.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, and she starts to recognize, oh, she kind of figures out what the Lua bond is or how it works.
Yeah. But it's interesting that she discovers it through the most extreme version of it first.
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense because that's how you learn things typically in science is you find the most extreme version and then you start figuring out the nuance.
How can I make this smaller and controllable?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's just interesting because then she realizes, oh, I can guide these things, which leads to her being able to protect them in the storm.
Yeah, she just lifts them up and we just float along that way.
I mean, it reminds me of like crap like Aquaman does, commanding like, you know, Kraken to lift ships up and stuff. And I mean, frankly, the way Brandon describes like how the vines like wrap around things, it does come across as very, you know, Cthulhic almost, like, you know, it's all these tentacles and stuff.
Well, I mean, anytime you take an ocean and you have tentacles, it's gonna get Cthulhu-ish.
Yeah.
So, but it's fun. We like it.
So I don't know. There's just something like there's more to it, and I'd be interested to see more on this world.
Yeah.
But
I'm just trying to
I want to
figure
know
out
what's up with the spikes.
See, I was wanting
with the red ones.
See, I was thinking I want to know what's up with just the moons themselves.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, to have 12 perfectly tidally locked moons that just happen to shoot
Just
magic
sit there,
seeds down constantly, I have a feeling this place was created. Like, this was done consciously, not accidentally.
It would have to
It
be.
almost, yeah.
Now we know that Adonalsium did stuff with Roshar. Like, Roshar is artificial. Roshar was sort of not created again from whole cloth the way that Scadrial was, but it was definitely manipulated by Adonalsium. And so for this place to exist as well, I suspect something similar is going on.
I mean, it would have to be because trying to get 12 moons, all of which are apparently quite close to the planet because like they dominate the sky.
Well, yeah.
Yes.
And it to be that close and they'd all be gravity wise, they'd be influencing each other. It'd be very difficult to, unless you set things very precisely into motion to get that set up.
You know, I'm wondering, and this may just have to do with Brandon's talk of working with other authors, like, you know, delegating out books to other authors and stuff, because Brandon has created a fascinating world here. That clearly is like not just a fascinating world, but it is important to the Cosmere story. This is where we get Hoyd as the most integral character we've ever seen him be. And then everything that's going on, like the introduction to the sorceress, who's obviously going to be more important. There is importance to Lumar, but it's also not on Brandon's larger, you know, I got to write these books out before I die list. And so it's just like, I feel like there's more to tell here. So is this going to be a world that Brandon farms out to somebody else?
I don't see it being Dan Wells unless
it wouldn't necessarily be.
Bend.
I
very well could do that. Even Tress.
Dan doesn't just do. Dan doesn't just do horror. Dan's done like kids books and he's done all sorts of stuff.
But I hadn't considered that, but as I think about it, it actually would be a great playground to give to a different author because one, it's so far ahead in the future that you could get away with doing stuff there and not have to worry as much. But they're also far enough behind in technology that you can still do a low-tech story. If you wanted to, you could just be like, hey, I want to play more on this world, but I can't have it interfere with any of your stuff. It's like, do you want to just tell a magic pirate story that's a self-contained thing?
Well, because that's the thing. He also has a world that is neatly divided into 12 different regions. And so it's like somebody's like, I want to tell a different story. Okay, well, you'll do it in the Crimson Sea, or you'll do it in the Sunlight Sea, or the
or whatever else. Yeah. Would you even be able to sail on the Sunlight Sea, or would it like burn you?
I mean, if you got any water, you're gonna have a bad time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, the rainstorms over there would be absolutely blinding.
Mm-hmm.
It would just be like a nuclear explosion as it came towards you.
Oh, man.
Plus, what's the trope? Convection, schmonvection.
Yeah.
This is also the first time we've actually seen a dragon in dragon form.
Yes.
Yes.
Even in The Traveler, Frost wasn't in dragon form. Frost was in old man form.
Yeah, I'd forgotten that, but yeah.
And so this is the first actual classical dragon that we've seen in the Cosmere.
It's also the first character we've seen with a name that starts with an X.
That's probably for the, Isaac and Brandon are probably working on a kid's Cosmere alphabet.
Well, actually,
they needed an X.
No, actually, you're not that far off because someone asked Brandon. I'd have to go find it. It's on the Coppermine, but someone asked Brandon, like, I'm trying to make something like that for the Cosmere. Yeah. It's like, is there anyone with the name X? And I think this was like,
it was a few years back.
Yeah,
I remember
Oh,
a few years ago, and he said SICS. It's a dragon. Like he told them it's a dragon.
Nice.
It's like,
that's right.
But that's apparently like the only one. So Brandon went forward and gave them a name so that they could do it.
Mm-hmm.
That was nice.
And then he took that name and put them on Lumar.
There we go.
In the sea.
Under the sea.
Doing research and having little workers.
Darling, it's better when it's not wetter. Take it from me.
You don't want to be wet there.
Also, love you put it so politely. It's workers. It's like, yeah, because it sounds so much better than, slaves for life.
Indentured servants that just can't ever pay their debt. Yeah.
Well, it's just like, even if they could. All right, well, you're free to go.
Good luck.
Well, I guess I still work for you.
Because I don't die here.
It'd be like the worst passive-aggressive parent. And it's like, can I be free of you? I don't know. Can you?
Can you? Figure out a way and we'll make it happen. But or you can make it happen.
I could see Zeiss totally having a deal like that. Look, you figure out how to escape. I will not pursue you. I will respect this.
If you can get out and survive, good on you.
It's the classic oubliette, the prison without walls.
Yeah. What is that from? I know that word somehow, but I don't know what it's from.
First Night?
I don't.
I mean, it's from the French, which is oublier, which means to forget.
Yeah.
It literally means a place of forgetting.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we finally got our dragon.
Mm-hmm.
Dragon.
Well, and Brandon loves dragons. That's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he's had dragons, written in as part of the Cosmere since the beginning.
But you didn't know they were dragons.
Well, I mean, what I mean is on Yolan there are 3 races. There's the Shodel, the humans, and the dragons.
The Shodel are weird.
Shodel are weird.
They're the 4-armed people things, right?
Yeah. The way he describes them, it reminds me a lot of Japanese folklore with like spirits of the forest and stuff.
Which makes sense. He spent 2 years in Korea, so there's a lot of potential for a lot of Asian folklore.
Yeah.
The problem is whenever I hear stuff like that, my brain always just goes straight to Spirited Away.
And all the forest creatures there, yeah.
The Fever Dream.
Yeah.
That one and Mushishi. But yeah. We finally got our dragon. I want to know what the spikes are made out of. They're made out of aether.
Yeah, but I want to know the consistency of
the
them.
sea?
Yeah, the sea spikes, like the red spinies.
Okay. Yeah, the crimson ethers.
First of all, I don't I they just remind. I just think of the spiky things in Zelda. I forget what they're called. Likes? No, that's what eats the shield, isn't it?
I always think
Yeah.
I kept picturing sea urchins, like how they have all their little nasty looking spikes. Even though I didn't think that was 100% accurate, but that's what I always.
Or what is it that King DDD throws?
Oh, the the Gordos.
Yeah.
These aren't described with 2 giant eyes on them, though.
Maybe they're closed.
They're all just really
we,
tired.
Yeah, we don't know what the spikes are made out of, other than that they are sharp and they are hard.
Yeah.
Because you don't really want to get too close.
That's the crossover we all need. Tress of the Emerald DDD. No, the sequel is Tress of the Crimson DDD. That's wow. My apologies.
All I know is that I want to know what these spikes are made out of, because it's just everything has an S. Like everything else, like we have something we can compare it to, right? Like they always talk about midnight essence. It's this oily, thing.
Gooey, yeah.
Verdant is vines. We get sunlight, we get wind. Like everything else feels very elemental in nature.
So reading into I'm reading the Coppermind, and it says it's uncertain what primal element Crimson Aether represents, although the spines are composed of a firm material that makes a clacking sound when Crimson Aether bumps together. That almost sounds like carapace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
some type of ceramic, almost. Like a particularly hard.
It makes me think
clay.
of kind of like ice cracking together, but it doesn't feel quite right with it being crimson.
Yeah.
For it to be ice, but like that sound that ice makes when it crashes into each other, kind of.
I just had a thought. So in Stormlight, they have the 10 essences that the surges are all based around. You have and
bone, blood, all the different.
And I'm just wondering if perhaps like Midnight Essence would be like a special set aside sort of thing, and then if you remove one other, which we don't know what all of them are, so that may be possible. I wonder if there is a correlation.
If there's the 10 essences, in the different spores, and then there's some extra special ones.
Let's see here.
I don't know. It's hard to tell without knowing more information about the spores.
Dysgraphic programmer in our chat says the spikes are made out of spikes, and honestly, I can't really argue.
Yeah, spikes are spikes.
Well, this is how we know he is some kind of engineer, because he said something that was 100% correct, but absolutely useless.
Now, here's one other thing. They mentioned the bone spores.
Oh, that's right.
This reminds me of the Lyre of Partinel, which I don't think either of y'all have read. No. But there's clearly some sort of blight that is happening on Yolen. You do see aspects of it in the Traveler, because the whole area around him is white. And in the Lyre of Partinel, which again, non-canon, I realize that, I'm still talking about it. There's this blight, and it's this white stuff that just sort of creeps out and gradually builds. It starts to encroach on everything, and everybody's kind of huddling together and hiding from it. That's what these bone spores sound like. Which would make sense, because this is something for that these are ethers that predate the shattering of Adonalsium, so who knows? But yeah, they just
because we don't see them on screen, we just hear about them, right?
They just talk. I mean, they don't even know that they're real. They're saying there's rumors of the bone spore, and as soon as he said that, because in the book they refer to things being bone white.
Yeah, I hadn't made that connection, because the only time we've seen them is in What's the short story with Hoyd? Traveler?
The Traveler.
Okay,
that's
the
what I-
Traveler. That's the only time we've really seen them.
Or anything similar to them.
Yeah.
Because again, that's not. Yeah. And again, I can't remember what the phrase they. Brandon always has. Like there's the seethe, and like he has the blank title. For different phenomena, and there's a name for it in the Lyre of Partnell that I cannot for the life of me remember, but I suspect this is sort of Brandon's first canon reference to that phenomenon.
That's in. I hadn't made that connection. That's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think you're onto something. I don't know what, but something.
The Fane, that's it. Thank you, Dysgraphic Programmer in chat. The Fane. I think that's what it's called.
Let's see. Let me just read this out here off from the Coppermind. The Fane or Fane life is a class of life forms on Yolen. Although Fane life looks like any ordinary flora, the plants and land overtaken by it are bone white and spill red liquid when crushed or snapped. Fane creatures generally have 6 limbs. Interesting.
So anyway, we can't go through the whole article, but I feel like there's something to it.
Yeah, it's weird.
No, that is. I had not made that connect. I like that. That's good.
Yeah, good eye.
No, the other thing, just as we're going through everything, that is interesting is just the fact that we get Nalthian awakened technology.
Yeah.
Which makes a lot of sense, actually. Yeah. Being able to, first of all, we already have seen using breaths to make commands really is dependent upon your ability to imagine it and make it simple enough that an object can use it. If you can give that object a little bit of knowledge, like through the use of like a computer or something like that, you could expand out its ability to follow a command because it doesn't need to understand it because you already programmed it to understand it. You could use it as sort of a hack to make objects do other things.
And it makes sense that a member of the IRE would be able to figure something like this out because that's how Elantrian magic works. It's a programming language.
Yeah. Well, but even the dragon, like he's able to make a much better one than the one that got crushed.
Yeah. We don't know much about dragon magic. So.
No. Well, but we know. I mean, we know he uses awakening because we see him.
Yeah. He pulls in the captain.
Yeah.
Crow. Yeah.
No, but the thing that's interesting about it is,
or is that the Luelbond, like Sand Mastery type?
It was cloth that did it.
That's right. Oh, with the cloth. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so most people are speculating he's a 10th level awakener because he can do it without a verbal command.
And that might just be because dragon.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a dragon would be the easiest to amass a bunch of breaths
because time.
That's all you need to do. You could afford someone just comes, hey, and I'll give you some breath, and it's like, only if it's a good deal. I can afford to wait.
Well, I mean, we also don't even know what the nature of dragons is in the Cosmere. Like, again, because remember, you have the awakened who have that super breath, that divine breath.
Yeah.
Who knows what dragons got?
Yeah, no, we don't.
Yeah.
But at the very minimum, he displays powers of a 10th level awakener. And so, but the other thing that's interesting about it is just, I'm imagining, because it's clear that this is a somewhat understood technology, these translation boards, which would make a bunch of sense, right? Because you're moving about planet to planet. If you don't have any tricks you can do with connection, a board like this would be very useful. So it makes sense that there'd be these things all around. And I'm imagining sort of this is getting a little technical, but like a Raspberry Pi sort of setup where you could get this generic computer and then someone who knows what they're doing takes the breath and can customize it to do something.
That's the program.
Yeah. It just sounds convenient, especially when compared to, how complicated and how destructive things like Nightblood are.
Oh gosh, that's horrifying. Drag and drop magic. Like that's basically what it is they've created a program that any fool can interface with.
So
that's horrifying.
Full disclosure, when you said drag and drop, what I heard was drag and drop, and I thought we went back to a different conversation. It took me a little bit to come back. I'm like,
it took me until now, and I was like, wait, where did dragons get dropped? What is
oh,
this?
good. It wasn't just me.
It's drag and drop.
Is that the Cosmere version of Operation Dumbo Drop? Anything can be airdropped once.
Everything is airdroppable at least once. Thank you, Howard
dragons
Taylor.
have wings, so you know.
Okay. We still don't know if dragons can fly.
I'm hoping they can, because if they can't, that would be depressing.
I mean, it's true. Penguins technically have wings. So.
Yeah.
Well,
what if dragons are penguins? Like they can't fly, but they can swim really well.
Oh man, maybe.
And that's why he made his base in the ocean. It's where he feels at home.
And he can just like close all of his orifices so that he doesn't leak any moisture. And there you go. He'll be fine.
I love the idea of dragons as penguins now, and I want it.
Oh gosh, I was thinking that trespassing was going to be the name of the episode, but I might need to go with what if dragons are penguins?
Dragons are dragons. Yep.
Oh, I thought you were going to say dragon drop.
No, what if dragons are penguins? I kind of love that.
It's fun.
I'd read that book.
At the very minimum, you'd open it up to read the insert, right?
I would buy that coffee table book and keep it out in public for people to come by and just say, "What?
Like, hold up, what?" No, that's funny.
It'd be like the time where you and I were just going down the list of Crunchyroll anime episodes and just laughing.
Oh man, the summaries sometimes get interesting.
Well, you just go down and you see some of them. You're like, okay, no, pause. I have to know what this is. I'm not going to watch it, but I want to know what the premise is.
No, it's funny. There's actually like YouTube videos that you can find where someone will sum up animes and they will like say what happens in it, so you don't have to watch the whole thing.
Oh man.
Well,
on that note, we should probably start wrapping up. I think we've drifted a bit out to sea.
Hey! You brought it back.
All right. Well, anything that we haven't gotten to that y'all think we really should have hit? Chat, feel free to chime in if there's something that is wrong.
I'm sure there's going to be something that'll be
at
cool,
this point.
I'll probably just put it up on our TikTok or whatever, and it'll be fine.
This will probably be another episode, but I can't believe again we still didn't get to the fact that there's a stinking Khandra. we haven't talked about him at all. I mean, at this point, the state of the Khandra, it could be an episode in and of itself.
Yeah, but we don't. I feel like we don't have a lot of information to really feel confident in commenting on it.
Oh, we don't need to be confident. We just got to speculate.
Oh boy!
Look, I'm a huge Super Smash Brothers fan. I'm used to speculating on very little. The two chairs in the background are this color and that color. Clearly that means Skull Kid is coming to Smash.
I've also read, I'm also a fan of Pat Rothfuss's stuff. I'm also used to speculating on very little.
And for a very long time.
Yes, and for a very long time. All right. Well, we should wrap up then. To our listeners, we love hearing from you. So please send in questions. Let us know what you think of the episodes. Tell us what threads you feel like we've left unplugged. What pathways we should go down. What would you like to hear us talk about? While you're at it, we'd also love to hear feedback about how you think we're doing, as well as any interesting theories you think you might have about what's going on at the Cosmere. You can send your questions and suggestions in a brief, concise email to cosmerestudies@gmail.com, and hopefully we could read that as part of the show or turn it into a discussion. Also, if you head to any of the podcast places or wherever you listen to us and leave a review, we'd love that as well. We do have a P.O. box as well if you want to contact us that way. the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies, P.O. Box 970063, Orem, Utah 84097. We do have our own personal projects outside this. Annie, why don't you start us off this time? What do you got going on?
So my Facebook is Coincidence Cosplay and Props. My Twitter is @CoincidenceCosp because my name is too long. My Instagram is coincidence_cosplay, and my TikTok is @coincidencecosplay. And my website still needs to be updated. It's www.coincidencecosplay.com. I swear I will someday. Anyway, as for what I'm working on, as I said before, I'm really close to being done with Tress, and I also am working on Mother Gothel. I need to actually still update things because I haven't put up pictures for like over a month. But yeah, and I'm just doing stuff that way. That's me.
Cool. Jordan?
You can find me at youtube.com/splicestream, rhymes with ice cream, where we're doing more with amiibos, and I've been playing a lot of Persona 5 and really liking that game. And yeah, just come by. We'd love to see you.
Cool. And I've got another podcast where I talk about board games with my friend Dylan. It's called The Innkeeper's Table. We have new episodes on Friday mornings. And yeah, our most recent episode, we continued our series where we look at the Spiel des Jahres, or Game of the Year winners from each year. We've made it up to 1988, where we played the game Barbarossa, which is a completely different game from what I was thinking it would be about, because it's a riddle game where you make objects out of clay, and then people are trying to figure out what the heck it is that you've made. You don't want them to be too easy, but you also don't want them to be too hard, because you can lose points if it's guessed too early or too late. It's actually a lot more fun than I expected. They also reprinted it later on and called it Dodles, as in doodles, but with dough, DOHDLES.
Oh, okay. That makes more sense than what I was imagining in my head.
Yeah. Our next episode, we're doing a game spotlight. I'm not sure which game we're actually going to be spotlighting next, so you'll have to definitely come over and check that out as well. Also, guys, go check out Mark Rober's videos. Seriously, they're awesome. And he's got we are in no way affiliated with them. He's got these this mail service where kids order where you order like science projects for these kids. It comes once a month, and you're building all these engineering projects, and they're learning all the different stuff behind them. I got that for my nephews and nieces, and they are absolutely loving it. So definitely worth going to check his stuff out. Just shameless plug for something that has I've never met the guy, communicating with him, anything. I just like what he puts out there. For our listeners who support the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies, but you can't become a patron, again, we would love it if you'd let your friends know about the show, to subscribe to the podcast, to like and subscribe over on youtube.com/Cosmere Studies, and to give us a good review over wherever you listen to us. That would be awesome. We also have a merch store at store.streamelements.com/Cosmere Studies, where you can buy shirts and phone cases and stuff with our logo emblazoned on it.
And all that stuff, yeah.
Yep. Final thoughts.
I realized that I totally forgot to mention that I am playtesting a Cosmere TTRPG, and
what?
we have I totally spaced this. So I didn't write it, but Peter, and I think his name is Cosmere Considered. If I got that wrong, I am so sorry, and I will put a note on what his name actually is. But he's on TikTok as well as YouTube, I think, and there's a couple other people like Jaffu and Colby from Roundtable Designs, and Melinda, that Cosmere chick, and ADHD Projects, and we're all playing it, and I'm playing an Edge Dancer.
Wait, did you say Jaffu is in like from all the subreddits? Okay.
Yeah,
all of the
nice.
subreddits.
Yeah, all of them.
Yeah. Anyway, but we're playtesting it, and we have permission to live stream it. We haven't figured out the first day that we're going to live stream it yet, but I will announce that and stuff.
Is this an official one, or is this a?
No, it's just
a homebrew,
a fan made one, and he's still refining the rules and stuff like that. And so we're playing it anyway. I'm an Edge Dancer, so I'm a peer liker. It's fun.
Cool.
So I will, when we have more details about when that's happening, I will put that up so people can come watch me play a tabletop game online. So yay.
Very cool.
Only in this conversation, it just occurred to me that somehow Hoyd got through telling us so many cooking scenes between Tress and Fort, and we somehow never got a fortress joke.
Fort Tress?
Yes.
Huh?
I am
Not even
shocked
once.
Hoyd was able to escape the pull of that pun.
I'm shocked you escaped the pull of that pun.
I don't have a good source for that pun. I would have really had to have ham-fisted that thing.
Was that a Hammond joke, or am I just
No,
missing?
I'm not that clever.
Okay. And again, read Tress if you haven't. If you haven't and you're listening, why are you here? Go
Wow,
read.
you got some
It's awesome.
spoilers. Yeah.
We've spoiled some stuff for you, but it's still a very
It'll be
good
still
read.
fun. Very fun.
So,
if you're wondering about which story we're talking about, it's the one with Tress in the title. That one.
In spite of the issues I have with some of the narrative aspects of it, it's still a great book and definitely worth checking out.
Super cozy.
Diet Brandon is still Brandon.
It's cozy, Brandon. Cozy.
Special thanks to our patron producer, Mims Laundry Service, rated #1 in Aether stain removal among covert organizations. In addition to the live episodes of the show that stream on twitch.tv/Innkeeper's Table every 2 weeks on Monday nights at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Time, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, listeners can find our videos on YouTube or audio versions of the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and just about any other service that carries podcasts by searching for Cosmere Studies. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook under the profile @Cosmere Studies. Next week, we'll be speculating. Specifically, we are going to be looking at the latest information chronologically that Brandon has given us about the Cosmere. The later works like The Lost Metal, Six of the Dusk, and Tress of the Emerald Sea all take place later in the Cosmere than other pieces. And we're going to start discussing this latter phase, this future phase, this what's going on. So join us for the discussion in 2 weeks on Monday, February 13th, 2023 at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Time, 10:30 p.m. Eastern at www.twitch.tv/Innkeeper's Table. Until then, on behalf of Amy, Jordan, and myself, thanks for listening, and remember,
There's always another secret.